Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to welcome you to our little program that we have here, and my special
Mhm,
guest who helps me, um, eh,
mhm,
um, elucidate several
mhm,
problems and situations that we have in the world. And one of them
mhm.
is, as you can see around us, we have
Yes.
economic turmoil, we have
Mhm,
shortages, and we have problems in, for example, Europe with energy
yes.
supplies, with electricity, oil and
Mhm,
gas. We have
mhm.
unbelievable high gas prices here in North America.
That's right.
And what is the fundamental issue here? Are we being controlled by outside forces? Are our economies our own, or are they somebody else's? In other
Mhm,
words, are we victims and puppets, or are we self-sufficient communities? And
right.
I'll give you an example of that. We have right now a
Mhm,
massive amount of world trade. Now, is this world trade beneficial to us? Is it sustaining us? Is it making our lives richer and better? Or is it making somebody else richer and better, who control the levers and the logistics of that world trade? Now, I'm not saying that trade is bad. Of course, it's not. But when
mhm.
trade relies on essentials, such as the heating of your home, the
Yep.
feeding of your family,
Yep.
the transportation of your body,
Mhm.
that is not trade. That is imprisonment. Because
Yes.
some forces outside of your community are completely controlling your freedom. And this is
Yes.
the situation that we're dealing with right now. And it started in the 1980s, in my view, and it's continued until today. Where if if in certain areas in the world are lucky, they have the natural resources and the infrastructure to provide everything, the basics I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about mangoes in winter.
Mhm.
Do we need mangoes in December? No. Do we need bananas in January? No. We don't need those things, and we shouldn't have those things. And it's a
Right.
luxury product. It's nice to
Right.
have a banana now
Those
and
are
again.
usually considered as nice to have, not
Exactly,
necessarily a necessity of some sort.
exactly. But necessities like fuel for your car, heat for your home, and basic
Right.
food for your table are
That's right.
necessities. And when those things are controlled from outside of your local area,
Mhm.
there's something nefarious going on. There's something bad that's so bad and so pernicious that it took decades, if not centuries, to organize. And it's a orchestrated program to enslave you. You're not free if you can't drive your car. You're not free if you can't feed your family. And you're not free if you can't feed your home. And why can't you do those things? Why would you need to rely on a shipping container or a oil tanker or something else to live? To live a life. Isn't it obscene? Isn't it objectionable? How do you feel about that? Oh, you don't feel
Mhm.
about that because you don't think about that, because you don't know about that, because you've been seduced. Seduced by the luxury products that come to our tables and come to our homes through world trade. And therefore, you've lost your freedom.
Yes.
You've been suckered,
Mhm.
and you've been blinded to the agenda. The agenda is to take away from you and give to a controlling mechanism, a controller, somebody who might have something like a world trade organization or a United Nations agreements on tariffs or something, and or whatever it is. Well, why is that? Don't you live in a community that grows vegetables and maybe that can chop wood and maybe the next door who can drill oil or whatever? or don't you live in a place that's equally shined on upon by the sun for solar
Yep.
energy collection?
Yep.
Why do you need to have something from halfway or around the world, and which can be cut off by war, can be cut
That's
off
right.
by controllers, can be cut off
Correct.
by emergency situations? Doesn't that make you a slave?
That's right. Inadvertently, yes, that is indeed the case.
What's the difference between you and Robin Hood living in the forest? You can't.
Wow.
You're not allowed to hunt in the forest because that's the king's land,
That's right.
right? Everything has to be imported, and you have to pay taxes. And
That's
the
right.
king's men, they come to tax collect, and they're going to search everywhere in your house for any little hiding stash of grains or agricultural products. Because remember, there's no money in those days. It's just, whatever you produce, and they're going to take it
Yep.
away from you, and
Yep.
then they're going to allow you to live because they control you, and you can't live on your land. You can't live on your own land because the
That's right.
landowner owns it. Now that's a feudal situation from thousands of years ago, or at least 1,000 years
Yep.
ago. But is it any different from the new neo feudalism of world trade? Neo feudalism is world trade because you're controlled in what you can produce, just like somebody who's a serf who lives on the land owned by the king or the lord or the duke or the baron, and you cannot be self sufficient because you owe them. Anything you do is theirs. Okay?
Yep.
And your labor in modern society has to be directed towards purchasing the necessity of life from them,
That's right.
from those who control the world trade, and for those who control the fundamental products that you require to live
Correct.
and to support you and your family. So, are we still living in the Middle Ages? Yes. Are we aware of it? No. Do we see the light of our enslavement? Can we see our prison bars? No. And we're panicked and desperate every day when we see the price of oil go up, when we see the price of food go up, when we see inflation go up, when we see interest rates go up. We're just, you know, we're just like little captive creatures in a cage of oppression. When what we
Mhm.
should do is support ourselves.
That's right.
How can we do that? What's your opinion?
Well, we can start by focusing on becoming community centric,
Yes.
supporting our local farmers.
Yes.
There's always farmers markets around,
That's right.
producing various different kinds of food
Exactly.
locally. They're the ones who definitely need our support because they are also at the
Uh
mercy
huh.
of those so-called global trade.
Right.
Yes.
Now, if
So
you
it
if you
used
go to the supermarket and spend your $50 on some vegetables there,
right.
are you benefiting your community? No,
No.
you're benefiting the owner of that supermarket chain. And I'm
That's
not
right.
going to mention names, but most of them are multinational corporations who control your
Correct.
local supermarket chains through, I don't know, through some kind of bank, or the headquarters could be at the Octagon Group in Switzerland. Who knows? But the point
Mm-hmm.
is that when you go to your local farmers market, you're putting that money that you spent directly into the farm or into the hands of a man who grew that food, or a family
That's
or
right.
a group of people that grew that food. Now, so why
Correct.
did you go to the supermarket instead of going to the farmer's market? Why'd you do that? Is it because you were blinded by some flashing lights and colorful signs?
Oh yeah. Oh
But you
yeah.
didn't think about the fact that your money didn't go to a person; it went to a corporation, and all those executives sitting in their ivory towers in their offices. Why would you want to do that? Why the hell would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to support the people that are living in your own community? Are you a traitor to your own people?
In a
Well,
way,
in
yes,
a way,
because
yes.
we've all been blinded by, or conditioned, in other words, by the environment, by the medias and all
Yes.
kinds of things into believing that what we're doing is supposedly normal. For
Aha.
example, you live in the city, you
Aha.
rely extensively on supermarkets,
Aha.
you rely extensively on uh, shopping chains,
Yep.
supermarkets, shopping malls, large online ordering companies, and
Aha.
so on. So they make you believe that this is the only way for those who chose to live in the city.
Right.
Okay, which is very energy intensive, anyways. For example, all the food groups, regardless of whether you getting them from
Aha.
from California or Mexico or whatever, even from Canada East Coast,
Yes.
they would have to be shipped in using trucks.
Let's look at the global warming Hippocratic reversal lie. They talk
Okay,
every day about
that's right.
fossil fuel use,
That's right.
carbon footprint,
That's right.
how we're destroying our environment and causing weather abnormalities that are going to cause us to all die in 30 years or less. But that's nonsense and not garbage when you consider that what they're really doing is propagating a system of massive global trade, which uses hydrocarbons because all those ships
That's right.
and all those trucks burn oil
Yes.
and gas and
Yes. That's
pollute
right.
at an unbelievable rate. So why
Correct.
can't you, instead of buying those imported products, go to your local producer? And I'm not talking about manufactured products. I'm talking about just food.
That's
Just
right.
food alone would
Hmm.
reduce global warming if it indeed exists, or carbon emissions by an
Yes.
enormous amount. So why
That's
is
right.
that not advertised daily? Why is that not propagated by our political system? Why aren't they saying buy local, refuse to shop in a supermarket to buy imported food? Like I went there the other day and I saw potatoes and carrots from Idaho.
Hmm.
Idaho's quite some distance from here.
You bet.
What's wrong with my local carrots and potatoes? The
There's
carbon
absolutely nothing
expenditure,
wrong.
no, the carbon expenditure to bring those products to my door is much less. And by the way, it's a lot cheaper if I make a deal with my
That's
local
right.
farmer to subsidize him directly for his expenses and his planting costs and his
Correct.
overhead, and
Yep.
maybe I got a little co-op going. So I'll give
That's
him
right.
$100 a month or a year, depending on the situation, or maybe even 1,000. And then you
Yep.
know what? When the harvest comes for the rotational crops, whatever they may be, I get to go out there and pick whatever's available and fill my boots, and put them in my long-term storage in my home, or maybe he has long-term storage available for me to partake of,
Sure.
depending on the product, depending on the
Yep.
season, depending on the situation. And by the way,
Yep.
with modern technology and the internet, we can organize all these things very easily.
You bet.
Okay, it's not like we're the fucking Middle Ages 1,000 years ago. We're not stupid people. So why can't we do this at a local level? Organize our food self sufficiency. We can. It's easy. It's not a problem. And you know what? It cuts out the middleman.
You bet.
It cuts out the cabal. It cuts out
You bet.
the people who are enslaving us and keeping us victims. And
Yep.
and when you see this garbage on the news about carbon emissions, global warming, and blah blah blah, I'd just like you to keep in mind what I just said.
Hmm.
And that might open your eyes to the total
Of course.
hypocrisy and the total nonsense that's actually at the
Yep.
basis of what they're saying.
Yep. The hypocrisy is just out of this world,
Mm-hmm.
to tell you the truth, citing that the most recent meetings they have at Davos,
Yes.
okay, one of that software company's famous US software company founder,
Yes.
He flew to Davos in his own private
Uh-huh.
jets, and then they even someone even exposed their dinner menu,
Mm-hmm.
comprised of some caviar, Spanish raised pork,
Mm-hmm.
and Norway salmon, and so
Sounds
on.
good. Delicious.
Yeah, delicious. And meanwhile, the Weffers, the leader of the Weffers, that bald-headed
The
four-eyed guy,
WEF, what the Fers?
right, right, told us that okay, to eat bugs and not to wash our clothes so as to make us smell like hobo.
Right.
And what else? Oh, yeah, he recommended us not to own any personal automobiles.
Right.
So the
Gasoline
hypocrisy is
cars are now
so
illegal in
blatantly
California.
obvious that the hypocrisy was so obvious. It's in your face that the elites are, rules for thee, not for me.
Well, in the Middle Ages, I keep going back to that period of time because it's so
That's right.
educational.
That's right.
If a on a hunting party, if the
Yes.
king and his his group, his rhetore,
Hmm.
were hunting deer in the king's forest, and meanwhile, remember the villagers starving because they're not allowed
Yes.
to hunt deer in the king's forest.
That's right.
And if the king gets a little bit of fog
Hmm.
happening, and it's cold in the morning, and his feet are cold, he can
Hmm.
immediately summon his guards to bring a peasant
Yes.
from the village and to cut their belly open so he can put his feet inside their intestines to warm up.
Hmm.
And you know why he can do that? Because he owns them. They're
That's
his.
right.
They're his
That's right.
vassals. And
That's
by
right.
the way, he has first right of insemination. Any
Hmm.
virgin who's being married on her before her wedding night, the king, if he so desires her, has the right to impregnate her, or maybe not impregnate, depending on biological situation, but it can certainly fornicate with her
Hmm.
without the protest of the groom. And if the groom did protest, he'd be instantly executed. So that is the level of ownership that these people think they have, and they still think they have upon us.
That's right.
And
Ridiculous, isn't it?
it may not be exhibited in the carnal or lurid fashion that I've just postulated, but
Hmm.
it certainly is in a metaphorical or more distant sense that we don't see. So we're no longer in the Middle Ages where you get burned at the stake and your belly gets cut open, but we're in a situation where your liberty is compromised and your sovereignty is stolen. But it's just a larger scale, and you're not seeing it because you're being uh, what can I say? What's the word that's available? You're being lied to. You know,
Hmm.
you're being stolen.
Yes.
You're being you know it
Violated.
violated. It's emotional for me to even talk because it's so
Hmm.
horrible. It's so nonsensical. And
That's right.
and using every tool that they're available, including Hollywood, including
Hmm.
advertising, including the internet,
That's right.
including the mass media. It's like a barrage. It's a barrage of constant inundating lies, deception, deceit, and
That's right.
obfuscation that makes
Hmm.
us victims once again.
That's right. They just want us to stay put and be chic. That's all.
Stop.